welcome to the deep dive. Are you feeling like maybe you're just throwing darts at a board when it comes to trading?
Uh-huh. That sense of randomness.
Exactly. Well, today we're diving into something that can shift that feeling, really transform it into more of a sense of control. We're talking about the absolutely critical role of education in trading success.
Right. It sounds basic, but it's fundamental.
It really is. And we've got a really compelling source for you today. It's basically a conversation, quite candid, where someone shares their own journey.
Okay.
And they highlight how getting structured trading knowledge just completely changed their game.
From losing to something better.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So our mission here is to pull out those core lessons, and really get why knowledge isn't just like a nice to have in trading. It's your fundamental advantage.
It is fascinating, though, isn't it, how many people jump into trading looking for that quick fix, that, magic indicator or secret strategy.
Oh, totally. The silver bullet.
Yeah. But what this source material really brings home is that the sustainable success, it comes from something deeper. It's about truly understanding how these markets actually work.
Right.
And this conversation we're looking at, it shows us, like, firsthand the problems, the pitfalls of trying to skip that foundational work.
Exactly. I mean, the person in this chat, they openly admit to a pretty dramatic start.
Oh.
They talk about blowing up their first trading account.
Wow. Okay. That's quite the learning experience.
Right. And it wasn't, some crazy unpredictable market event. It was, as they put it, a direct result of simply not knowing the basics.
Just a lack of understanding.
Yeah. They were essentially flying blind, no compass, no grasp of fundamental principles. It's really a stark reminder, especially if you're feeling overwhelmed by all the info out there.
Which is easy to do.
So easy. It reminds you, you've got to nail those core concepts first before you can even think about, more advanced stuff.
And that experience of failure, specifically because of lacking knowledge, that's powerful. It's not just theory.
No.
It shows the real cost, the actual financial cost of trading without that solid grounding. What's really insightful, though, is the turning point they describe.
Oh.
The moment they made a conscious decision, they decided to stop guessing.
Right. Move away from that kind of hope and pray method.
Exactly. And instead, actively go looking for structured learning.
And this wasn't just some vague idea like, oh, I should learn more. They actually point to a specific catalyst.
Ah, okay. What was it?
They mentioned PipUp Trading Academy.
PipUp, okay.
Yeah. And it gives a really concrete example for you listening, especially if you feel like you're drowning in all the trading blogs and videos and everything else online.
Right. It shows the value in finding like a defined path, a structure.
Definitely.
Okay, so when we dig into what made that specific educational experience work for this person, what stands out, the source seems to really emphasize the practical side.
Yes, practical and structured. They talk about the curriculum starting right at the beginning, things like support and resistance.
Key price levels, yeah, where the market tends to react.
Exactly. And candlestick patterns, those visual cues about price action.
Uh-huh. Reading the tape, basically.
Sort of.
Mm-hmm.
And crucially, it wasn't just theory. They immediately focused on how to apply these basics in, actual live market conditions.
That makes a huge difference. Theory is one thing, doing it is another.
Totally. And it sounds like that building block approach was key.
How so?
Well, the way they describe it, each concept sort of layered logically onto the previous one. It wasn't random tips.
Okay, so built towards something.
Yeah, ultimately leading them to develop a complete trading system, a whole framework for understanding and actually navigating the markets.
Right, not just isolated tactics, but a coherent strategy. That really speaks to that need for a thorough understanding, doesn't it?
It does.
And, you absolutely cannot have a robust trading framework without talking about risk management.
Absolutely critical.
And the source really hammers this home. They highlight a key lesson they learned, almost like a quote. Your edge isn't your strategy. It's how well you manage risk when you're wrong.
That's powerful. Say that again.
Your edge isn't your strategy. It's how well you manage risk when you're wrong.
Wow. Okay, because that shifts the focus, right?
Yeah.
It's not about being right all the time.
Which is impossible anyway in trading.
Right. It's about protecting your capital when those trades inevitably don't work out.
Exactly. Understanding position sizing, knowing how much leverage is appropriate, or maybe even inappropriate.
Yeah. And where to place those stop-loss orders strategically.
It's fundamental. So many traders, especially beginners, they just focus on finding winners. But losses will happen.
Guaranteed.
The real edge, the sustainable edge, comes from consistently keeping those losses small. Think of it like running a business, right?
Okay.
You don't expect every single venture to be a massive success, but you absolutely need systems in place so that one bad bet doesn't sink the whole ship.
That's a great analogy. And it paints a picture of like a really holistic learning experience they went through.
It seems that way, not just the how of placing trades, but the why.
Yeah, like understanding market behavior, the psychology piece, which is huge.
Oh, massive. Your own mindset.
And even the practical stuff, like using a trade journal, reviewing your performance properly. It sounds like they got that whole well-rounded view.
Offering those different perspectives that really lock the learning in.
Yeah. Which brings us back to that old cliche, doesn't it? Knowledge is power.
Yeah. But cliches are often true for a reason.
True. And this source really shows why it holds true in trading. When you move from just like emotionally reacting to every market blip.
Which is exhausting.
Totally. To actually understanding the underlying dynamics, the patterns, the probabilities, what felt like chaos before starts to feel a bit more, maybe not predictable, but understandable.
Yeah, understandable. You're operating with informed expectations, not just blind hope.
Right. You're not just crossing your fingers anymore.
And what I find really encouraging is the source's emphasis on building a solid foundation.
For the long term.
Exactly. Not getting caught up in those get-rich-quick promises that are everywhere in trading.
Yeah, those are dangerous.
Very. This education they received, it sounds like it prioritized that deep foundational understanding, which is exactly what you need for sustainable knowledge, something you can actually build on year after year.
And they gave concrete examples too, right? Of how this translated into like actual changes in their trading.
Yeah, they did. They specifically mentioned using tools provided, like a position size calculator.
Oh, handy.
Very. And a trade journal template. These aren't just abstract concepts, they're practical tools that directly help you build better habits.
Make more informed decisions day to day.
Precisely.
And the proof, as they say, is in the pudding. The results. The conversation points to a really significant milestone for this person. Achieving their first profitable month.
After implementing what they learned.
Yeah, specifically after putting into practice a simple price action-based strategy they picked up through this structured education.
Wow, okay, so that's tangible proof right there. Acquiring the right knowledge led directly to positive results.
It really seems like it.
So ultimately, the core message that just radiates from this source is that knowledge isn't just, an optional extra in trading.
No.
It's the absolute key. It's how you navigate the inevitable struggles and actually progress towards consistent profitability.
And that recommendation then, to seek out structured education from reputable sources.
Like the specific example they gave, PipUp Trading Academy.
It becomes a really clear, actionable takeaway for anyone listening who's maybe feeling stuck.
Definitely.
And it's also good they mentioned accessibility, right? Pointing out free introductory lessons on their site, www.pipup.com.
Right, and then more advanced modules, too. It means there's potentially a starting point or a next step, regardless of where you are in your trading journey.
Whether you're just curious or looking to seriously refine your skills.
Exactly. And that final message, it really lands as one of empowerment, I think.
How so?
Well, the personal story shared in the source coming back from blowing up an account, those significant losses,
Yeah, I thought
it offers this really powerful sense of possibility. It reinforces the idea that, look, with the right knowledge, the right guidance, real improvement in your trading is absolutely achievable.
it's not hopeless, even if you've had setbacks.
Of it all.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, that core insight feels crystal clear in this often complex, sometimes intimidating world of trading. Dedicated learning, actually acquiring sound knowledge. It's not just helpful, it's probably the most powerful tool you can have for finding that consistent success.
Which really brings up a crucial question, doesn't it, for you, the listener?
Okay.
What specific area of trading knowledge do you feel could make the biggest difference in your own trading right now?
Good question. Like, what's your biggest gap?
Exactly. Is it really getting a handle on risk management? Maybe finally nailing down market structure? Or understanding price action better?
Right.
Take this as a prompt, maybe, to actively look into resources for that kind of structured learning and think about the sources you use now.
Yeah. Are they giving you that solid foundation, or are they just, fleeting bits of info tips here and there?
It's worth reflecting on, where are you getting your knowledge, and is it truly building something sustainable?